All right, this is According to Callus, and my intro should have been there for you. On Thankful Thursday, I am going to relate what I heard today earlier, which is what inspired the entirety of this episode. And I really have no idea how long this episode is going to go or how long it's going to take, so please bear with me. But I was listening to the Tom Woods Show, as I do most days while I'm cruising around in the for work, and Scott Horton was filling in for him. And if you don't know who Scott Horton is, or God forbid you don't know who the great Tom Woods is, take some time, go check out their podcast, go check them out. And it's not about, hey, I agree, I'm in complete lockstep with these guys or anything like that. It's more of opening your mind and learning something and taking advantage of what they bring to the party, if you will. So, today's episode, wow, I'm looking in the wrong phone. How about that now? So, in today's episode, they were talking about the fact that we are just now leaving Afghanistan. Now, think about it. We have been there 20 years. And in 20 years, you got to ask yourself, is Afghanistan better or worse for what we've been doing? Or for that matter, the more important question is the United States, is your home state, is your county and your city better off for what we've been doing for the last 20 years? Now, I know that this kind of correlates with my thoughts on the drug war as far as what do we got to show for it, but just hear me out here. So regardless of whether or not you think the invasion of Afghanistan was justified, and back in 2002, I probably would have been right. Yep, we need to go take care of this. We need to do this. And certainly I considered re-enlisting myself. But on this episode, which would be 1944, the title of the episode is called Defend the Guard Against the Feds. And Scott Horton, as I said, was the guest host, and he was interviewing Mr. Dan McKnight. Now, it should be noted, Mr. McKnight served honorably with both the Marines and the Army. So he's not just some anti-war hippie zealot. He's not hateful of, all that is America, red, white, and blue, and apple pie and all that stuff. No. He's former military. And he's, understands that when war happens, it's his job to go kill the other guy. And I concur. I think that's the appropriate time and place, right, for the military when there's a war declared. So, one of the things he does is he works to get a Defend the Guard bill done at the state level. So, if you don't know, let me take you through just a moment to explain why this matters. Okay, so as big as our standing army is, it's only so big, and we can only be so many places, and we can only do so much before manpower runs short. And when that happens, they often tap the state guard, right, the National Guard, to fill those roles. Now, setting aside the fact that the military usually disdains the National Guard, right, the weekend warriors, and they usually don't treat them the same. But when you're on the front lines with these guys, I imagine when they're, taking watch and doing parole, or talk about a slip there, patrol, and they're functioning out in the field, I imagine there's that same mutual camaraderie that, you would enjoy or employ in any military or paramilitary exercise. So, this guy, Dan McKnight, he was a sergeant, and he had to call the governor of Idaho to get his unit taken care of. And he tells an interesting story of that, and that's how he gained some notoriety. And that former governor is now a U.S. senator from Idaho. And that U.S. senator basically let him down. So this guy took it upon himself to do something about it. Because when we're using our National Guard to fight overseas wars, we're really not utilizing the National Guard in the way it was originally envisioned. Indeed, we're, quite frankly, and this is, I guess, similar, this is my interpretation of what I heard, plus a little bit of my own thoughts added in. So we'll just set Mr. McKnight's thoughts on the back burner for a moment. My interpretation, my understanding of it is, you join the National Guard to protect your home state from insurrection, invasion, and natural disasters. Not to go invade some country in the Asian Southwest theater that is landlocked and zero threat to anybody else around it, or the United States for that matter. Likewise, while you may poo-poo and, fake shed a tear for these guys, that is what they signed up for. That is what their motivation was when they joined the National Guard, is we could go drill, we're there in case our country needs us, but certainly we're not going to be going overseas and fighting in wars that were undeclared and largely pointless. Okay, end of sermonizing. So we're finally maybe now drawing down and getting out of Afghanistan. And the time has come that we need to take steps, and this is exactly why I bring this up, to take steps at the local level, at the state level, to rein in federal abuse of power. Now we're cooking, right? What are you going to do? Well, for those of you unaware, the Texas House District 2 used to have a guy by the name of Dan Flynn. That was their state rep. And I don't know Dan Flynn through any particular means, so I won't disparage him. But he was replaced after a runoff election in House District 2 for the state of Texas by none other than Mr. Bryan Slaton. And Mr. Bryan Slaton and Doc Collins, or Dwayne Collins if you prefer, both tag-teamed Representative Flynn out of a job. The reason being is they wanted fresh representation. They wanted new representation. And this was largely a local election, right? It was largely built upon what came out of Hunt County. So as you look at this, you say, well, what difference does one state rep make? Well, now here comes the fun part. So that one state rep went down his freshman year and issued a bill. And before I get to that bill, let me also remind you that we've had that one state rep before. Before it was Jonathan Stickland or even Matt Rinaldi. They would go down, they fought their fights, they did their time, and they left before they got spoiled. So Mr. Bryan Slaton, who I am very thankful for, and I had an opportunity to meet him here earlier this last year, as well as Doc Collins for that matter. I believe I got introduced to him at something I went to go visit in the next county over, having to do with legislative priorities. And while there, somehow this entirely slipped my notice. I was completely unaware. So let me read you what this is. This is HB 2701. Again, put forward by our freshman state rep out of the neighboring county. And it says, the bill to be entitled an act relating to certain requirements for activation of the Texas National Guard into active combat duty. Be it enacted by the legislature of the state of Texas. Section 1, Subchapter A, Chapter 437, Government Code, is amended by adding Section 437.0055 to read as follows. Okay, so there's already this code in place relating to how the Guard gets called up, right? How does the Texas National Guard get used? This is an amendment. Now let me read you what it says. Congressional action required for combat duty activation of the Texas National Guard. A. In this section, active combat duty means active military service through 1. The participation in armed conflict in a foreign state. 2. Performance of hazardous service related to armed conflict in a foreign state. Or 3. Performance of a duty through an instrumentality of war. Okay? So we clear. Basically, we're taking our National Guard and sending them somewhere else to do something. B. Notwithstanding any other provision of this code, the Texas National Guard may be activated into active duty combat only if the United States Congress does 1. Officially declares war in accordance with Clause 2, Section 8, Article 1 of the United States Constitution, or 2. Takes another official action in accordance with Clause 15, Section 8, Article 1 of the United States Constitution. And C. The governor shall take all actions necessary to comply with this section. And this Section 2 says the act takes effect September 1st, 2021. Now, unfortunately, while this did get through committee, it did not get to the full session vote. And now I think I saw Representative Biederman also signed on this. So I saw 4 representatives that had signed on for taking part in this. 4. Now I ask you, if you are a Texas citizen, if you think highly of our military people, if you think, hey, in times of war we have to go do things, that should consider you to think, well, maybe, just maybe, we shouldn't be sending our National Guard to go fight in foreign wars unless there's actual declared war. So what this is putting into law in the state of Texas is, yeah, hey, feds, you don't get to take our National Guard unless you actually do your job, which is declare a war. And since the feds won't ever declare war anymore, because that would mean they would have to take responsibility for the things that they've done and, be susceptible to negative reaction from their constituents or being held accountable by other acts of election, this is taking this away. This is doing this at the state level. This is the lawful, constitutional, and appropriate way to insert a little federalism in the abuse of power coming out of the federal government. Yet, we couldn't even get a vote in the Texas House. Coincidentally, I saw Bob Hall was the author in the Senate version, I believe. So, why is it we're getting outdone in our neighboring counties? May I ask you, Collin County? We have 5 House reps. We have 2 state senators, both of which are, let's say, more conservative than average. Or let's say all 7 are more conservative than average. Yet, I didn't see any of them, 1, supporting this, 2, named on the list of supporters, or 3, actively campaigning for this to be passed. Now, this seems like a no-brainer. It seems like pretty much everybody in the Texas State Guard would support this. Pretty much any veteran would support this, right? Why are we sending our boys, right? I'm holding up those quotes, boys, to go die in a foreign country without a declaration of war? How is this okay? How is this a good thing? But I am thankful that Representative Bryan Slaton actually put forth the bill. And I'm thankful that there is going to be a record of this. And I'm also thankful for the idea that this is going to show up again next session. And even though it may take 5 sessions, which is 10 years before we could get constitutional carry, even in its weakened, watered-down form, through the Texas House and Senate, I'm confident that if we get enough active people, enough interested people who would like to protect their family members, who would like to look out for what's best for the state of Texas, this could pass. And it might not take 10 years to get it done. I'm thankful that we had a freshman state house rep, take up the charge of requiring the Congress to act within accordance with the Constitution and putting on a check onto abuse of power. Unfortunately, we couldn't get any support out of the Senate, so to speak. We couldn't even get it out of or beyond the committee in the House. And our pusillanimous governor refuses to take charge or run point on much of anything unless it's absolutely politically advantageous to him, so much so that it slapped him upside the head so that he would notice. My hope, my plea is that no matter what you think about the situation in Afghanistan or Iraq for that matter, that you would acknowledge that the continued use of the Texas National Guard in this manner is not what's best for Texas. It's not what's best for our country. And clearly, by allowing Congress, and the president for that matter, to ignore the constitutional restraint and abuse their power in getting us tangled up in foreign wars for undisclosed and indeterminate periods of time, we can rein this in just a little bit. We can ratchet it back just a little bit. And all it takes is for somebody else to have some courage. Somebody else to pick up the baton from Representative Slayton and say, good job, let me help you out. Now, I would like to believe that it would be somebody from Collin County or multiple somebodies from Collin County that would say, who could possibly disagree with this that has an R after their name? This almost makes perfect sense. I can't believe it hasn't always been like this. Why would we send our National Guard to fight in foreign wars without a declaration of war? Bowie, this sounds like such a no-brainer. We should make this happen. And yet there was largely silence. But the difference comes when you and I get involved. The difference comes when this next election cycle comes. You can see each one of your representatives that's up for re-election, and you can ask them, hey, what was your stand on Representative Slayton's HB 2701? Do you want to protect our state guard? Do you want to protect the Texas National Guard? Are you concerned about our young men and young women that go in undeclared wars to go get killed or maimed or in some other way hurt, destroying families for no reasonable reason? Now, I will tell you that the speaker that was talking about this today, that would be Mr. Dan McKnight, was quite adamant that if tomorrow there was an invasion or tomorrow somebody started a war, he would be in line to volunteer. He would go pick up his rifle and he would defend America. He would defend the state of Idaho. I feel the same way. I'm probably a little older, a little heavier, a little more worn out than that guy. But if it came down to Texas versus anybody, I would have Texas's back. And I think most Texans feel the same way. So I ask you, in this next election season that's coming up, are you willing? Are you able to take the 5 minutes that it would require for you to print out HB 2701 and hand it to your current state rep and say, would you be willing to support this next term? Are you willing to protect our young men and young women in the Guard? Are you willing to do the right thing? Are you willing to force the Congress to follow the Constitution? I don't think that's asking for too much. Hey, and if you live somewhere where you got a D as a representative, sometimes they're against war. Sometimes they're against abuse of power, just like the Republicans are, right? Sometimes they don't want it. They know what's wrong with it, and they'll oppose it. Ask them the same question. yeah, I know a Republican wrote this, but hey, it sounds pretty good to me. It sounds pretty good for Texas. Why are we sending our young men and young women to go die in foreign countries without a declaration of war? Why not force Congress to do their job? Come on, this isn't a Democrat issue or a Republican issue. This is a right or wrong issue. This isn't right or left. It's right or wrong, right? That's what Matt Shea says, and Matt Shea would know. So, hey, I don't think this is a bridge too far. I don't think this is asking too much. In fact, I think that the next time I see any of my state reps, that'll be the first question I ask when given the opportunity. What do you think about HB 2701? Are you willing to support it next term if we should send you back? I think that's an excellent question. Yes, I know they're going to string out the abortion issue. They're going to maybe find time to grant us some more gun rights somewhere along the line, or maybe, just maybe, they'll do something about the border or elections integrity. Who knows? But this is something that's relatively simple. I mean, the writing takes up a half a page of paper. All it requires is for somebody at the state of Texas to be able to do the right thing. Now, unfortunately, with our current governor, I'm not sure that he'd be willing to do what needs to be done. But hey, we got an opportunity to fix that too. We do. 2022 is right around the corner. And in that primary, you'll have choices. Governor Gregg could be sent home. Unfortunately, we can't get rid of Lieutenant Dan because nobody's thrown their hat in the ring that's worth supporting yet. But who knows? We still got some time. Ladies and gentlemen, I know. Things don't look really good. There's a whole lot of chatter about this or that that's bad, good, or whatever that's going to happen soon. I know. But if there's something to be thankful for, this is it. If there's something to be positive about, it's this. It's that a freshman elected official in the Texas House had this spine, the intestinal fortitude, to put it on the line. And this isn't the only bill that he put out that was, let's call it a step of faith. Well, now, unfortunately, we didn't hear much about this. Unfortunately, there wasn't the support. Hey, but next time we can hold their feet to the fire because we know this is out there. You have the power to hold these folks accountable. You have the ability to require things from them. And while they can hem and haw over, well, we just don't have enough voters to end murder in the womb. Oh, we just can't stop this lobbying by the taxpayers, we can't make it happen. Those rural counties are worried about it. They won't have any excuses for this. I can't think of anybody in their right mind that would oppose this. And for those of you that are out there that are big fans of federal supremacy, that's not the way it works, or it was intended. Please, just stop. Just stop. You're hurting the nation. You're hurting Texas more than you can ever imagine. Just because SCOTUS issues an opinion, just because Congress makes a law that clearly violates the Constitution, but SCOTUS says it's okay, even though it clearly violates the Constitution, does not make it binding in the sovereign state of Texas. And just to be clear, that could be the sovereign state of Tennessee, the sovereign state of New Mexico, the sovereign state of Alaska, the sovereign state of Wisconsin. We have to start asserting our rights and power as a sovereign state. If we don't, it's game over. If we can't get people to stand on something soon, it's game over. And I hate to tell you this. No matter how thankful I am for this and Mr. Brian Slayton, if we don't stand and save Texas, we're not going to have anywhere to go. I mean, you can run New Hampshire, the free state, but you're surrounded and outnumbered and outgunned. You can flee to Alaska, but 9 months out of the year, you can barely get around. You can even flee to the American Redoubt. And for those of you that don't know, that would be Idaho, Wyoming, Montana, and the eastern portions of Washington and Oregon. And they may hold out, but if it's just them and just them alone, they're only buying time. We have to make a difference. We are Texas. We need to act like Texians. We need to act like Tejanos. And we need to remind the feds that just like 1836, we can do it all over again. Don't make us. Remind them that flag, come and take it, has more than one meaning. And make a difference right now. Let's prevent it from coming to that. Let's do the right thing through the legal process. Let's avoid bloodshed. Let's avoid unnecessary warfare, both abroad and at home. And with that, this is According to Callus. I hope that you took something positive away from this. I hope that you remember that one man elected in one slot can make a difference. They just got to push and push and push. And they need our help. I will see you on the other side.